Welcome to A Human Perspective. On this episode of A Human Perspective, we have Stijn Smet, who is a global customer success manager at Silverfin. We both work at the same company. We've actually had very informal, short conversations around Pride Month, and I thought it would be a great idea to actually get him on the podcast and to explore, his feelings around Pride Month a little bit more. So, Stino, welcome to A Human Perspective.
Well, thank you for having me. It's my first podcast ever. I'm a big fan of your podcast, like I already told you in the past. And I'm happy to be here. So thank you so much for inviting me.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. You're very welcome. I thought it would be good to start with your LinkedIn post.
Yeah.
A few weeks ago, at the beginning of Pride Month, you posted a very moving post about your feelings around Pride Month and your identity as a gay man as well, and being open in general. What inspired you to be so open?
Because in the past, when I was like 16, 17, freshly out of the closet, I was making sure it wasn't like on my face or I had a label that I was gay. And I was also a bit reluctant to the whole pride because when I was watching news with my parents and there was some section about pride, Brussels pride, I can always see my father and my mother looking at the screen like, I'm so glad my son isn't dancing with feathers and that struck me a bit like, okay, I need to be the straightest gay I can be as possible.
Yeah.
And then over the years, when I got more educated, because I created my own identity, my own voice. I went to college, stuff like that. And then I got into touch with, different kind of people who were like open, who were proud to be gay. And 2 years ago, I went to the World Pride in New York. And
Amazing.
It was by accident because it was a family trip to New York, and World Pride happened to be just in that weekend. We went, and then I think it also opened my parents' eyes because they also saw the love and all the stuff around it. And we also went to Stonewall. Not that day of World Pride, but we went, and then they educated themselves also. And then it opened my eyes. I'm proud to be me. I get to be me. And then all my vision around Pride, it's shifted completely. And it's not always about feathers or glitter.
Exactly. I just found the post so bold because you do speak about stereotypes that are potentially out there. Even if you within yourself feel these stereotypes exist, you're constantly conscious of that. And it does impact the moves that you make or how much you tell people, because you just wonder, am I getting judged a little bit more than the next person? One thing that you touched on, for instance, is being loud and flamboyant, and that being a stereotypical trope of being a gay man. Mm-hmm. Why do you feel that is a stereotype?
I do think whenever you watch the TV and we're being stigmatized like that, whenever you watch a sitcom or a series on Netflix or just watch at the news, it's like whenever they portray someone of the LGBTQ community, otherwise, if it's a gay man, it's like completely over the top and hey sis, hey girl, stuff like that. And when they portray a lesbian woman, for example, it's like the most butch male character you can find. It's a human reaction. I think it's with everything. Like whenever you got a portrayal of something, you always get to think like, okay, he must be like that or she must be like that. And I think it's the same maybe with you, like the angry black woman, for example. I know
exactly.
I don't know if that's a touchy subject, but it's like the same. Like, oh, she has that color, so she must be all the time angry, for example.
Exactly. No, and I think you've hit a huge nail on the head in that the media has built up perception. So people feel they know and understand other people based on what the news has selected to show them, based on what movies have selected to show them, even based on movies that are promoted within Black culture itself as well. You know, all these things shape what people believe. They think they know where you're coming from. And it's just so interesting, you know, for myself personally, you know, one of the reasons why I have a podcast is because I'm quite opinionated. And for whatever reason, that is seen as a problem. I don't know. It sometimes feels like you're not expected to have a functioning brain, and you're not expected to be able to communicate effectively as a Black person. It does really hinder the way you interact with people, how confident you are being open with people, because you just automatically feel you're being judged, you know, even in facial expressions, when you speak or how you speak, you know, people are automatically making judgments about you. Yeah, it's just really interesting. This also shaped our idea on what love is. The form in which love comes, right? We're used to seeing a heterosexual male and female. We're used to seeing love appearing in a specific color, you know, size, etc. And it does impact what we feel is good, bad, right, wrong, attractive or not. And so how do you have validity with all these images swirling around in your head? How can you feel comfortable knowing that it's not portrayed as the norm?
Yeah, totally. Because whenever you look also at the media, whenever they portray like a gay couple, it's like shirtless, always like almost like maybe not porn-ish. And when
Yeah.
like it's crazy. A gay couple can also be normal,
Yeah.
normal job, educated.
Yes. There can be depth. Let's think about it. I mean, if you look at 50 Shades, for instance, and you look at the Christian Grey character, you never see, or you rarely see, a character like that is gay. You don't
Yeah.
see this strong alpha male, but they are actually gay and very confidently owning and being a lead person in the movie. You just don't see that.
No, maybe in those indie movies that are really really great, but they don't see the light of day. They don't. You won't see them in like those big cinemas. You won't see them on TV, and if you see them on TV, they're like past midnight because who the children might see. Like it's the same like with Hungary, for example, right now. Like
Yeah.
nothing about LGBTQ community can ever be shown in
Yeah.
schools and public places and in places where children are like present, and that just blows
Yeah.
my mind like a country of the European Union and not even that
Yeah.
deep into like Europe. It's like
Yes.
Central Europe
Yes.
almost. Czech Republic, for example. Czech Republic is also
Yeah.
really open in its gay culture,
Yeah.
and then you have Hungary. Like
Yeah.
I do recall that I went to Budapest like a couple of years ago, and
Yes.
I
Yeah.
didn't feel like unsafe. I felt really safe,
Yeah.
and now just like when you get that news,
Just like that.
it's
Exactly. And I think it just goes to show you that actually quite often the issue is not the people. The issue is the people in power. I mean, we saw the impact of Trump in the US, for instance, where people just became a lot more aggressive towards, you know, the LGBTQ plus community, towards, you know, the African American community, etc. And it's because as soon as you allow that type of thinking, it flourishes. And I think that's the scary thing, where actually Hungary is a great country, and I'm sure, I haven't been myself, but just based on what you've said, I'm sure the people are very easygoing. But now this type of legislation creates a divide, and what you're trying to do is invalidate a subset of people. And the fact is, you know, homosexuality has existed since the beginning of time.
indeed.
So you can't eradicate it purely through omitting that fact from education.
Indeed.
You're based in Ghent in Belgium. What have you found the differences to be when it comes to actually being gay in London? What differences have you seen?
First impressions more open in the UK instead of Belgium. I
Yeah.
think in Belgium we're bit more, or well, a lot more reserved
Yeah.
when it comes to public affection. When you walk around the streets of London, you see really fearless people.
Mm.
And I don't know if maybe it's a bit more populated than Ghent, for example. But
Mm.
in the streets of Ghent, you won't see showing of affection between two guys, and you do have
Yeah.
that in London. I don't know. I think we're a bit more reserved.
Yeah, because the interesting thing is, after the Netherlands, Belgium was actually the second country to legalize same sex marriage. So, knowing that, it's strange people would then be uncomfortable actually showing affection in public. But is that with heterosexual couples as well? Or do you feel it's fine for heterosexual couples, but with, for others, not so much?
It's fine for heterosexual couples.
Interesting.
There is a lot of false acceptance in Belgium.
Mm,
There is a
mm,
lot of false acceptance. People say they're fine with it, but they are
yeah,
actually aren't fine with it. To give like a perfect example, and I will refer back to my father, like I have a lot of
yeah,
respect for him, and maybe
mm,
I would what I'm going to say is maybe a bit contradictory what I said before, but I
yeah,
will not show my love for my boyfriend whenever we're at my parents or in the presence of my parents. Like I
okay,
because my father says he's okay with it, but in the past we had an issue when I just put my hand on my knee of my boyfriend and he
yeah,
was like disgusted by it. So he
whoa,
said he is fine with it, but he isn't
yeah,
fine with it. Like, and that's what I mean by false acceptance. If we do a survey, like ask around on the street, do you have problem with gay people, or do you? And most of the time they would say like, yeah, no, they're also human, and also there is a lot of false acceptance. And for my father, and indeed, I had a discussion with Greet, you know her as
mm,
well,
mm,
2 weeks
yes,
ago,
yeah,
also about pride, and I was like, yeah, but I don't really show affection. I'm proud of who I am, but I don't
mm,
really show affection whenever I'm with my parents. And she was like, but then you
yeah,
aren't proud to be gay. You hide yourself. So what's the deal with being open but hiding yourself for your parents? They say they love you, so they have to accept you.
yeah,
And
yeah,
I honestly didn't have an answer for that. I always
yeah,
hide behind the fact that I have respect for my parents. And then she was like,
yes,
yeah,
yeah,
but they
yeah,
have to respect you as well. Coming back to that point of false acceptance, like how
yeah,
are we accepted in the world today? Like, and I think it's with every minority. Like we say, or
yeah,
like we
it's
people
so
will
true.
do the movements and will go on the streets and will hold your hand.
Yeah,
I will write
yeah,
posts like I'm standing with you, but like how in the end will you stand with me, or is it
yeah,
just for
yeah,
like the likes and how you are perceived by your
exactly.
friends or on social
Yeah,
media? Like, are you though? And it's the same for
yeah,
me. Like I write that LinkedIn post, and that's why there was a conversation going. I've written that LinkedIn post, but am I proud?
yeah,
Am I open as I
mm,
say I am? Like because
yeah,
I 100% I'm not, because I'm a bit back in the closet when I'm with my parents, or
mm,
fly, or like
yeah,
I diminish myself whenever I'm in a group with a lot of straight men, for example.
okay,
So
yeah.
am I that? I am proud. I am that proud, but am I that open?
Mm. I think the tricky thing is for people that aren't experiencing, what you're experiencing. Same for me as well. Is there's this line between because there's a lot of ignorance, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm super ignorant. You only know what you know.
Mm-hmm.
So there's this line between, okay, yeah, I mean, I'm definitely supportive, but what does that mean?
Mm-hmm.
What do I actually proactively do in order to show my support? And the reality is nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Even when it comes to conversations on being a black person, I refrain from all the way, especially
Yeah.
on public platforms. I try my
But
best
why
to
though?
not say anything
But why? Because we are
because I
proud and
think,
open.
yeah,
So,
I think it's because I feel people are looking to put you in a box.
mm-hmm.
People are always looking to categorize you. I just worry that I'm going to look like some black Xena warrior princess. And I also have to work at being approachable. When you have this label, you have to make people feel comfortable with you. So
Mm-hmm.
I have to do work constantly so that people
Would
feel
like
I'm
you.
approachable. I'm human. I think people, I genuinely do sometimes think they forget there's a human being there, right?
Yeah,
So
totally.
it does require work. You're spending half your time just trying to get people to understand you as a human being,
Mm-hmm.
to then start to focus on those topics.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, yeah, it just requires another level of energy. I respect everyone that's able to do it. I'm just not quite there yet.
Yeah.
I'm just not quite there yet. And I think, to be honest, I've also grown up with this mindset that, okay, you can have this idea about Black people,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm going to push myself into your space so that you see me as an individual. I want you to see me as an individual, and I want you to value me as an individual first.
Totally, totally understand. I'm like, I'm Stan, not Stan the gay guy.
Yes,
Like,
exactly.
that's also something I wear with pride. I don't wear the
Yeah,
label, I wear myself. I'm
yeah,
Stan, you're Lola. Like, we're indeed
yeah,
individuals. We have our own
yeah,
thoughts, feelings, we mind. We are human though. We're not a label.
exactly.
Like, okay, I am gay and you are Black, but that doesn't
Yeah,
define our
exactly.
being, our individuality. It doesn't at all.
Exactly.
So that's also why I never said really like I'm gay. Like, maybe this
Yeah.
time it's the fifth time I ever said it in my life,
Yeah.
because
Wow. Wow.
it doesn't matter. Like, whenever you meet me, and if
Exactly.
they say like, "Are you into guys?" Say I have a boyfriend, and
Yeah.
okay, but that doesn't, indeed, like you say, like, it's, you push yourself into a way, like, no, that doesn't define me. Like, I'm here because
Exactly.
we like the same movies, or we're into the same music, or
Exactly.
we're like on the same level when it gets to a certain subject.
This year, for the first time, our company recognized Pride Month. We try to not get too involved in anything that's too religious, too cultural, or any movements. And I get why. We're just a product and we want our product to stand on its own.
Hmm.
But the fact is, you have people behind that product.
Hmm.
And for me, it wasn't just about us having rainbow colors because everyone else does. Actually, what we're doing is we're sending a signal to our employees that we see you and there is space for you to be you. I feel that just by recognizing Pride Month, we're recognizing people that would naturally just kind of sit back silently, being who they are, but not really feeling like they can be open about who they are. And by just putting the colors out there, and I know we did some internal activities as well, I'm hoping that we just bring validity to people who feel they're not seen. There's something real and concrete behind this.
Hmm.
It's not just the show, bright colors, and as you mentioned, flamboyance and feathers. No, and all that is beautiful too. But
Yeah, indeed.
there's a core movement behind this that
Hmm.
impacts people's lives every day. Where you put in your post, even just holding your partner's hand, you're not comfortable doing that in public. That's something
Hmm.
that I don't even need to think about. And I just thought I literally sat back when I saw that and I thought, whoa. I mean, we can't imagine. So I just think it's really important that where we can create space and we can help people feel comfortable
Hmm.
and we can help people see that they matter,
Hmm.
that they're seen and recognized. I just think it's really important.
Hmm.
If you want to talk about those topics, then let's make sure that we create the space so that people
Hmm.
can. And if people don't want to, they don't have to either.
Yeah, indeed.
But let's just create space.
Yeah, and I do think this year, like, you see whenever people participating into
Yeah,
the activities you set up,
yeah,
also the posts that came into our internal channels,
yeah,
I think the goal is almost met, because you see people being open and outspoken about certain
yes.
areas. Like, people I didn't expect
It was
reacting or
moving.
reaching
Yeah,
out. It was
same.
like, whoa, courageous. The post you did, the post another colleague did. It's like, you
Yeah,
so fearless, so brave. And in the end, maybe we shouldn't even use that word fearless or brave. It's like, it should be normal. It should be normalized that you're an ally of our community. You're an ally, and
Yeah.
you don't need to be ashamed of it, or because we had that conversation like, should I put it out? Like, I don't want to
Yes,
step on anyone's
exactly.
toes, or and I
Yes.
saw the post you've written, and I think it, and I also said it to you, like, but I wanted people to hear it as well. Like, I sat back, I like cried hysterically because, and my boyfriend came over me like, "Are you dying?" And I was like, "No, no, no."
Oh.
But like the post was so well thought out, it was so well written.
Yeah.
It was you've chosen your words like very, very carefully. And as I'm thinking about it, I'm going to tear up again. But
Oh.
just know you've outed yourself as well. Like, I've outed myself as
Yeah.
a gay guy, but you've outed yourself also to the world. Like, hey, I've educated myself. I thought about it. I
Yeah.
came out as an ally of the community. Like, and that's even something not everyone like does. Like, everyone says, "Oh, I'm fine with you.
That's
You're a
true.
cool guy. Like, I've not a problem." But whenever they have to speak up, they don't. Like, and you did. And
Yes.
even as yourself as a part of another minority community, like, you you
Yeah.
took the chance, you thought about it, and you, as I
Yeah.
said before, you outed yourself again,
Yeah.
as because you outed yourself like, hey, I'm this person, and now you're outed
Yeah.
yourself in another way. So, and
Yeah.
that's maybe also something I want to have the listeners take into account, like, whenever you say you're fine with it, are you also fine with it to speak up about those subjects? There's also another
Yes.
part, like, yeah, I'm fine with you, like, you're a cool guy or you're a cool girl, like, I don't
Yeah.
have any problem with your skin color, your sexual orientation is, but in the end, like, will they stand with you when it gets rough? Like,
Exactly.
for and even in the last year, now with Hungary, or like in the USA, also with George Floyd, like, okay, are you
Yeah.
with me? You didn't have a problem with me, so are you like advocating with me right now to address the bigger issues? And then in the end,
Exactly.
and that's also again that false acceptance. Like, they
Yeah.
most of the people won't.
I think at the time, the reason why I was procrastinating about the post was because I just felt like, no, this is a time for QIA plus voices. It's not the time for me to be speaking. It's not necessary. This is the moment where people have that elevation to actually amplify what it is that they have to say, whether it's a celebration or to tell a story. This time is for you.
We have acceptance, but stand with me, see me, like, in the end, are you with me? Like, not only saying that, but fight the fight with me. And that's, I think, something we need to still get to. It's people that think they're fine with, like, oh, we accepted it, let's move on with our life, equal rights, but like,
Yeah, yeah,
are you willing to march with me? Imagine we're in Hungary, like, are you
yeah,
willing to march with me in Hungary? Are you willing to
yeah.
stand by me?
The real fight, are most people actually ready to do that?
No.
I would say no,
Even are we?
unless it impacts them. Even exactly, I had to even question myself.
Are
Would I
we?
go?
Yeah. Will we go? Yeah, indeed.
Yeah. In my mind, in my body, I was feeling like, yeah,
Yes.
I'd
No,
love
and
to. But the reality is, would I really, really
really go.
go? You
Yeah.
know, my heart may be there, but would I really physically take the actions to go?
And that goes back to the beginning of this podcast. Like, are we that
Yeah.
open? Are we that
Mm,
happy with ourselves? Like, we say
yeah.
we do, and we write we do, and in the end, we actually we will do. But like,
Yeah.
on certain moments, when it comes to those marches, when it comes to injustice in general,
Yeah.
like, will we fight the fight with our allies? And that's, I think, something, yeah, that's self-reflecting, and to be completely honest, some of the fights I won't, I think, and some of I
And that's
will,
okay.
and that's okay.
Yeah.
But the thing is, we need also those allies in every community.
Yeah, I just hope that, one day these labels just go away and, people are truly free to be themselves and explore their humanity in a real way. Well, Stino, thank you so much for your time. I've really enjoyed the conversation.
Thank you. Yeah, same. I wish you very well, and yeah, we'll talk soon.
Well, wow. I had so much fun talking to Stino. I actually really had to do heavy editing because we spoke for so long. But I hope you enjoyed the conversation just as much as we did. And I look forward to catching up with you again in the next episode.